12 Essential Spring Cleaning Tasks for the Garden. The first task is removing and composting any dead annual plants that remained over winter. These will not return, and any self-seeders will already have done their job. Some shrubby plants with woody stems, Artemisia, Buddleia, Caryopteris, lavender, etc., need to be cut back each spring because they only bloom on new branches. These are pruned in the spring to limit winter damage and to encourage the plant to start sending out those new flowering branches. It's best to wait until the danger of a hard frost is past. Most of these woody perennials will let you know when it's time to prune them by showing signs of opening buds on the lower stem portions or new growth at the base of the plants. Staking is one of the most tedious gardening tasks. It's tempting to procrastinate, but the sooner you stake, the easier it is on your plants. Sure, they look ugly for a few weeks, but think of the headaches you'll avoid by letting your plants grow into the stakes rather than trying to squeeze the plants into them later. Mulch does many wonderful things for your garden. It conserves water, cools plant roots, feeds the soil, smothers weeds. There's no question that every garden deserves a layer of mulch. Wait until the soil warms up and dries out a bit before replenishing your mulch. Be sure to keep it away from the stems and crowns of your plants, and, if you're hoping for some self-seeding volunteers, give them a chance to germinate before you cover the bed with mulch. Depending on where you are gardening, some perennial plants will never quite go dormant, but they may still need tidying up. Plants like Epimedium, hellebores, heuchera, and bearded iris retain their leaves all winter. Spring is the time to trim back the tattered foliage and encourage new growth to come in. If you left your ornamental grasses up for winter interest, you could cut them back as soon as you can get to them. You don't need to wait for new growth. Cut grasses to within a few inches of the ground. They'll come back up when they're ready. Spring rose care depends very much on your climate. Roses that are grown in warm climates, where roses never go dormant, benefit from a good pruning and the removal of the majority leaves, to shock the rose into thinking it was dormant and needs to wake up and start growing again. Where roses do go dormant, spring care should begin just as the leaf buds begin to plump up. Most spring blooming trees and shrubs set their flower buds in the summer or fall of last year. Pruning them in the spring, before they've bloomed, would mean pruning off this year's flowers. Learn about your blooming tree's particular needs, and prune accordingly. Most evergreens should require little to no spring care other than some tidying up. Spring is a good time to fertilize evergreens because they are actively growing at this time. However, if the soil is healthy and rich, you should only need to feed your evergreens about every other year. Look for a well-balanced food labeled especially for evergreens. Early spring is the time to take action against weeds with some proactive weeding. Damp soil makes it much easier to pull young weed seedlings. Don't try to compost weeds. They'll come back to haunt you. It's very important to test your soil before you start adding things to it. If you amended your soil in the fall, check your soil's pH, alkaline, neutral or acidic, to see how balanced your soil's nutrients are and determine if any corrective measures are needed. Most plants enjoy a good feeding in the spring when they have their initial growth spurt. If you have rich, healthy soil, all you should need to do in the spring is add a bit of top dressing with compost, manure or a complete slow-release organic fertilizer. If you prefer using synthetic fertilizers, you can start applying it once your plants show signs of new growth. If you want to propagate or move your plants, spring is the ideal time to divide or transplant them. It's amazing how quickly plants recover if you catch them early when the weather is still mild, and they're raring to grow. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos. And please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm.